Welcome back, folks, to Paranormal Round Table. This is the exciting conclusion of the Mexican Folklore, Part 2 with Chief. And I hope you guys enjoy it. Don't forget our email, like and subscribe. Email is doswolfman88@gmail.com and wolfandsal@gmail.com. And let's get right to it. I got a Lechuza story for you. I got a couple. And I'll tell you one, that this one was pretty weird. This one was told to a friend of me, Scorpion and D. And he told us this one time we were out drinking, and he said that, okay, we were drinking. We weren't like, hey, tell me a story about a Lechuza. No,
it's just a couple.
I see the face you made, like we were over there getting
smashed.
Borracho Teresos over there, like, hey, well, no, dude.
It was just
singing like Lupillo Rivera already.
Singing the old Chente songs.
It's over now.
So no, seriously, we were just drinking, hanging out, and whatever.
Couple of beers, yeah.
And the guy that was telling us, he used to be a bartender downtown, and he said, I got a story. It was the only story he had, and he was a white guy, but he said, I got a Lechuza story. So he was dating this girl, and so this girl, I see you need to go to the bathroom.
Was she Latina?
Is that what you're doing? You go in the bathroom?
No. I got to stand up.
If you're trying to go to the bathroom, I'm going to talk really.
Are you going
slow.
potty, Sal?
Yeah, real slow.
So you have to just sit there and hold it.
There you go. No, just kidding. Carry on, man. This is really interesting.
So anyway, what happened was he worked downtown, and we all knew him. And I'm not gonna say his name because I haven't seen him in years, and I don't know if he wants me telling his name or not. So anyways, we ended up talking to him about paranormal stuff or whatever. It came up about our house, about the house. And I don't know if you know this guy. This might have been before your time. Anyways, he used to work at Treasure Island. I don't know if you know him. Yeah, Treasure Island. But anyway, he was telling us this story, and he said that he had a Lechuza story, and he was working with another bartender that we were good friends with that was Hispanic. And so he was telling a story about the hairy hand.
Oh, yeah.
You know about the hairy hand, right?
I've heard that.
Yeah. And so, anyways, the other guy tells a story, and he said that he was dating a girl that told him a Lechuza story. And that was the first time he'd ever heard of Lechuza. Of course, he's a white guy. He'd never heard of it. He didn't know what the heck it was. And this girl that he was with claimed that her mother, she was raised by her tia, which is in English is your aunt.
Yeah.
Now, according to her, she was raised by the tia because the mom was a practitioner of black magic.
Oh.
And that she was into Santa Muerte. And she would they would smuggle things. And so she was into that whole death cult, which I think that part was like a joining. And now when we talk about the Santa Muerte, let me explain them what that is. Mm-hmm. The motto of these people that serve the saint of death. Mm-hmm. Is that God forgives, but she protects me. So it's like, that, and it's very twisted. I mean, I don't get into it is so weird. I don't know how you can have a patron saint that is death. It's kind of like, you're like Thanos, basically, I guess. You just, you're all about death. And so this woman that was her mother, her birth mother, was into that. And she was into this whole, the smuggling years ago. It was a long time ago when he told us this story. So she was a smuggler, and they were into the whole death cult or whatever. And I believe personally that came from the ancient Greeks, that the Spaniards got it from the Romans, who
got it from the Greeks, yeah.
They got it from Hecate,
yeah, the
female part of it. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of ended up in the Catholic Church through the Roman Catholic Church because of the Romans, and then it ended up that's what I believe. And then it kind of merged with the Virgin Mary.
Yeah.
When they took over the Central and South Americans.
Yeah.
So anyways, it's kind of a weird mix of, I don't know if you want to call it like voodoo, not voodoo because it's not voodoo, but it's almost like a weird mix of that mixed with the Catholicism.
Santeria.
Kind of Santeria, yeah, but a little like a Mexican version of it.
Yeah, it's, what is it? It's kind of like when you get an indigenous culture, such as when the Spaniards came into what is today Mexico and all up into Texas and everything, you had these local indigenous tribes, and they had their own religious practices and so on and so forth.
They blended them together.
Right. It's an amalgamation of the two.
An amalgamation. Perfect. And so what ended up happening was this woman was into that, and Santa Muerte is like really something that's just, I would never mess with it. And so this woman, she claimed her mother was I don't want to say a vampire, but like she was vampiric.
Yeah.
She would come to her when she was a little girl to her window at night, and she would look like an owl. And then she would like peck on the glass, but then when she'd open the glass, she would like literally morph into like a shadow of her mom.
Oh.
If you can follow that, and that she would hold onto her feet, like, and that she would like drain her. She could feel like her body getting weak. And so it was very weird. I mean, I don't know if anybody's ever heard of the Key of Solomon and Song of Solomon, where they talk about Orneus, this vampiric entity that was draining the life force of the servant's son of Solomon.
Mm-hmm.
And so Solomon was given a ring by an angel, and of course he used that to bind all of the demons, and then of course the legend is that they built the temple because he forced them to. It was very similar though. Like she would grab her feet, and she said she would do that to her and her sisters, and it looked like a silhouette of their mom.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could see her features through the shadow. And so it was very weird. Like he was telling us this story, and we were just kind of like freaked out, dude. It was the end of the night, and it was dark in the bar, and and we're sitting here listening to this guy talk about this, and eventually it led to like them having bruises on their ankles, and then it was like different part. Like it started out with just her grabbing the feet, and then they would be tired, but then later on, the mom would show up and like say, "Hey, can I take the kids to go do this or that?" And they told her no because they knew something was going on. And this woman eventually, there was a bird that was sitting outside the window, and one of their older cousins hit it with a slingshot.
Okay.
Now, people don't know that you can actually take one of those metal balls from a slingshot, because I've done it.
It's a ball bearing.
Yeah, and you can kill something with it.
It'll go right through somebody's hand or
well, you got to be careful. I saw a guy on YouTube one time shoot one, and it bounced off of a bottle and came back and embedded, like it hit him in the head. Yeah, I was watching it with my wife. It was crazy. But anyway, this kid, and I know I had one when I was a kid, and I used to pepper things with it,
Yeah, those wrist rockets.
And wrist rockets, yeah. And so he popped this big black looking owl looking creature, and it fell out of the tree, and the mom immediately got onto him, whatever. Well, the next day the mother was laying there and she was dead.
Oh, wow.
And it was the mother of that girl. And so, which would have been that kid's aunt,
Wow.
And of course, the mom was doing something because her sister that took care of these kids got really sick because they were telling her, no, you can't come around the kids. And she's like asking her, what are you doing? What are you into? Why are they reporting you coming into the room and looking like this dark entity? And so, yeah, that he told me that story, and he said that he was very adamant that the girl that he was with said that really happened, and that her mom was found dead with a blow to the head. And they actually did an investigation. They found the ball bearing,
Oh, man.
and that they were going to charge he was a kid, though. He was just a kid. They were going to charge him with murder, but then there was no one that could corroborate that they saw a naked female, because she was naked,
right,
sitting up in a tree. So it's like, what is that? How do you explain that? Like, obviously there was some black magic going on. This is real. I mean, I'm telling you, people at home probably going like, oh yeah, right. No, this is a real story. Like, I talked to this guy, and he went out with this girl, and he's like he's like from Ohio or something.
Yeah, he's not Hispanic.
No, and he's not even from here. He's not a Tejano. He's not a Texan. He's just a good guy.
Not of Mexican descent.
He's just a white guy from Ohio. And he told me that story, and he said, I'm going to tell you this story. It's the only one he had, but it was just very bizarre. And he went out with this girl for about 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and then something really tragic happened to her, and she actually died.
She passed away. Wow.
That is another element of the story, though, because she said that she had been cursed, that her mother had cursed them, and that they weren't going to live past a certain age when she died in a car wreck.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, that was a really weird story. And I guess that was his true love, and he had told us that. And so that was a very heartbreaking story. And we were all just kind of like, wow, that's very sad.
Yeah,
Thank you for ruining my night of drinking.
Yeah, it's a high creepy factor on that one, man.
Yeah. I actually got mad at the guy and punched him for telling me that. I'm just kidding, folks. People are going like, what? No, I didn't, folks. I just felt really bad for him. But, and I think, Chief, you might know who
I'm going to go
is.
revise my stories after that.
Yeah. It's like, we're not going to make them sad.
Yeah.
Make me sad because then I'll beat you up. No, I'm just kidding.
Was it Andy, the bartender?
You did just throw people's names out there like that.
We
man.
did have a bartender, Andy.
Yes, we did, and it's.
You've had
You
a
know what?
long line of
If it was, I
bartenders
wouldn't
now.
tell
could
you.
be any-
I'm not
I
going
mean-
to tell you. I'm not going to tell you. No, it was not Andy.
Okay.
Started
You
with
just-
it
you
started
just
with
told
an
me, though.
R.
You just told me though.
No, his name started with an R, and he was from Ohio. I'll tell you after the show because I don't have permission to tell that guy's name.
It was Jeff.
It was Jeff. My name is Jeff. So no, seriously, folks, though, like that's a story that he told us that happened, and it was a very tragic story. But that is the Lechusa in a nutshell. Like that's what these stories are about. And like I've told you before, Scorpion, when he moved into the house when he was a kid, they claimed that someone had caught a bird and they hung it up on the fence, and then it was a woman, and
Yeah.
and his neighbors all swore up and down that was the truth, and it scared him as a kid, and so who knows. But I mean that is what it is. It's basically like a woman. Now here lately, shape-shifting. Here lately, we don't hear anything at night out here. Now my tia Hova used to always say, "Mijo, if you hear something whistling, you don't whistle back," And of course, as a dumb kid, the first thing you're going to do is go out there and whistle, And my cousin did that one time, and we were walking down the street like late at night, and he whistled at something, and something began to flap and move tree branches like it was not happy. You know what I mean? And so I took off running, and I was probably like 10 or 11, I took off running, and my cousin just laughed it off. Nothing happened to him. So after that, I thought, well, maybe it's just a myth. But then when I was 15, I did see
the dog,
the hombre lobo.
Yeah.
So then I thought maybe all this other stuff's true too, So I don't really take chances with that. I know my wife's been out here lately, and there was a weird bird like whistling. Now they say if this bird whistles at you, you're not supposed to whistle back.
Don't whistle back.
Don't
curse
whistle back, and don't curse at it, and don't throw rocks, and don't do anything like that because you don't know what this thing could be, And now I have another Lechusa story for you if you want to hear it.
Oh, yeah.
I want to hear it. Pour it on. Dive in.
Are you sure?
Are you ready for this?
Are you ready for this?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
we're ready.
We're ready. All right, here we go. So anyway, this is a Lechusa story that kind of happened to me, but it more happened to a guy I worked with, but it really happened to him. And I'll tell you what happened. We were working at a Lowe's. They were building a Lowe's down on Brody Lane. And I remember that land that was like the old Garza Ranch, I think it was. They were building it. And Sal, I keep forgetting you're not from here. I'm looking at you like you're supposed to know that. But they were building it, and so there was this like property there that was once a ranch, and they were building it. And so I know you've seen the scars on my hand where that white dog, whatever it was, attacked me, like where it bit
Yeah.
me. You see it right all up and down my hand.
Yeah, I see all that.
Well, when I was working there, that's when I got bit by that thing. But this was not about that dog. This was about, or whatever that was, a wolf dog, whatever. There was this thing that landed on the roof. You know how the Home Depots and the Lowe's, they all have the awning?
Yeah.
There's like a metal awning.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, they had already built this thing. And what happened was we were doing a fire watch because they were having problems with the water and some sort of permit or something. So there was no water. And so they had all this material inside the building, and it was already built, but they couldn't open.
Couldn't do anything, yeah.
So the fire department's real. They're like, no, you have to have a 24-hour guard, So my job, I was working 14s, and this other guy, the lazy guy, was working 10s because he wasn't, whatever. And so I was over there every day. And so there was this one day a week where this other guy, really cool dude, man, would come in, and he would work that one day. Well, that place was really creepy. It was really spooky. It was always real dark. They kept the parking lot dark. They didn't want to use up, a bunch of electricity. With the
There's a
lights
cemetery
on.
near there?
I don't think so. No.
That's crazy.
What the heck are you talking about, dude?
I was just asking.
In the area,
Do
you
your
mean?
research, sir. Okay? Read my mind and know what I'm going to talk about so you can research it. My gosh.
All right,
These
hold-
people who can't read minds,
Hold on, bro.
they're always
Hold on,
behind.
Hold on.
No,
I got nothing.
nothing.
No smoke. No smoke.
No cemetery. So anyways, what ended up happening was this guy, he was there one night, and he told me that the next night that I came in or whatever, he had actually had to work like that night. And then the guy that was supposed to come in
Didn't
called
relieve
in.
him?
Yeah. So he was there all day. So when he told me this, I thought, man, is this guy just delirious or what? Because nothing had happened to me up to that point. But oddly enough, after he told me this, then a few weird things started happening. So he told me that he was there one night and he was under that awning, and that he heard something just boom, like something just dropped and landed on top of that awning, and that he heard like walking, he could hear like claws, like talons or something, and he thought it was, and so he thought it was very like it was bird like. He said it was some kind of large bird, and he said that it scared the heck out of him because he thought, what bird could be that big that it was literally, he could see it like shaking the thing, like moving the thing, and the only light out there was under that awning, and then the whole parking lot was dark, so it scared him. So he told me about that, and I thought, well, maybe he's just working too many hours. I mean, the guy just literally worked like 20 hours. He's probably tired, So I said, well, maybe you're just tired, and he goes, yeah, maybe that's what it was. He goes, but it scared the heck out of me, dude. And he admitted to me, he was like, it woke me up, because obviously he was asleep.
Oh, hilarious.
Well, 20 hours out there, you're going to be asleep.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was around Thanksgiving too, and we were working, and so yeah, it was cold, and we were tired, and I was working every day. And so I go in, I do my shift. So that night, same thing happened to me. It was like maybe 3 a.m, 2:30, 3 a.m. And I'm just sitting there, and like, this was so weird. Like something landed on the roof, like just boom, really loud. And it was the same thing. And I was like, whoa, did I just imagine that? Because, the guy told me that. So it's in your mind. But then I'd kind of forgotten about it. So I get out of the truck, because, I'm going to investigate because, that's my job. And so I'm like, and then I hear the clacking, like claw sound walking on the awning thing. Yeah. And so I'm sitting there going like, whoa, what is that? Like, and then it was just so loud and so creepy. And I thought, there's no way that could be a normal bird. So I did what any brave guy would do. I got back in my truck and locked the doors and leaned my seat down and like crawled. No, I'm just kidding. No, I just got back in my truck and rolled the windows up and was like, whatever, and just if I got to shoot this thing, I'll shoot it, whatever.
Hopefully you wanted it to leave. You were like, I want it to leave. Go ahead, get out.
Well, here's what ended up happening. You know how it starts getting dark, about 5 o'clock, in November, it starts getting dark real, and then they do the fall back or whatever. And then it gets dark real early,
Yeah, by 6 o'clock, it's dark as hell. Yeah. It's dark as ever.
Yeah. So the guy that's supposed to relieve me, he comes in, and I didn't tell him anything about it. And then that guy had the same thing happen to him.
Holy Jesus.
So I come in and he tells me, he goes, about 7 o'clock, he goes, something came and like landed on the whatever. And I got there at 8. Like I would work 8 to 8, whatever. Mm-hmm. And so I come in at 8 o'clock and I'm like, what are you talking about? And he goes, dude, something landed. So I just played it off like I didn't know what he was talking about. And then so it happened to that guy, that he heard the same thing, but everybody was kind of afraid to go and look, which I'll be honest, I didn't. And I didn't want to tell him that I didn't. Mm-hmm. And so couple days go by and I was off again. I remember I was off or something. I had to be off. And then that guy ended up working for me. And the other guy, the first guy. So then he tells me, he goes, I'm not ever going to work here again.
What?
Yeah, he's like, I'm never going to work there again. Like I called him when it was like the next week because this had happened a couple days or whatever.
Did he get a visual on it?
Well, yeah, he did. And so I called him and I'll just tell you his name. His name was Kevin. Mm-hmm. And like I've told this story before, like me and him actually talked about this at the office we used to work at. So I don't think he minds me saying who he is. But Kevin was like, I'm not going to work there again, Wolf. I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it. So they had to find somebody to give me that 1 day off a week that I had. So there goes my 1 day off. So I didn't even have a day off after that for about 2 or 3 weeks. And they're like, the company's like, well, we have nobody, So was working for this company, and so they were just like, there's nothing we can do. So I was there every day. So I see him at the office. And he tells me because he didn't tell me on the phone what was going on. Mm-hmm. He said, dude, you remember how I told you that there was this thing that landed on the awning? And I said, yeah. He goes, well, whatever that was, he goes, I decided to go out and try to take a look to see what it was. Mm-hmm. This is what he said. He said he looked up and he could see something in the back of behind the awning close to the building. You know, it sticks out from the building.
Yeah.
And he said it was the size of a man. This is what he said. Mm-hmm. And he said that it flew up overhead, but it was so dark that he couldn't really make it out. But he said it looked like a really large bird. But one thing he saw were like these weird looking legs hanging down from it.
Yeah.
That almost looked human-like, and it had talons on the end of the legs.
Oh, wow.
And so he got back in his truck and he drove like off the property. Like he said, he actually left the property. He was like, I left.
He's like, forget this business. Huh?
When he said that when he was driving out through the parking lot, this thing went right by his window, and it like looked in at him, and it had a bird like head, but it was human like at the same time.
Right.
And he was struggling to tell me and one of the other field captains what he was talking about. You know, he was like, I don't know how to describe it. He's like, it just looked like if you took a woman and a bird and mixed them together.
An avian type entity.
Yeah.
Humanoid.
Like a harpy.
Yeah.
Not his words, but
Right.
I asked him if it was harpy-like, and he didn't know what that was. But I said, look, I don't know. Like the Greeks had a harpy.
Yeah.
And when I tried to describe it to him, he said, yeah, possibly like that, you know, but it was like, it was human looking, but it was bird like too. And he said it was black, completely black. And he said that it looked like a black female. That's what he said. Yeah. And then it went right by his window. And he said he just started screaming and he went off into the ditch and then he went up onto the curb and he almost
wrecked.
Yeah, he almost wrecked. And he said he was going down, you know, Brody, you know how there's you go over if you go over the median, you end up in the other. Chief, you know what I'm talking about, right, Brody? So like there's like a median in the middle of the road, you know?
Wow.
And so he went all the way to the other side and was like going down the wrong way because he was freaked. It freaked him out. So then he tells me that, you know, and I'm going like, what the heck? You know, now I got to work there.
Wow.
So needless to say, I wasn't going to be doing any more, you know, I was doing workouts and stuff out in the parking lot. Forget that. I was just sitting in my truck scared to death under this awning, you know, the whole time.
Hopefully this avian humanoid creature entity wouldn't show up.
No, and then of course about a week after that is when I got attacked by that white dog thing, whatever it was. I still got the scars and I'm going like, what is this place, cursed or what? But yeah, that's the closest it came for Lechusa for me. Was that you know, he told me that story, and Kevin was just a white guy. He wasn't like a
somebody believes in was in the know about the Mexican.
Didn't know what a Lechusa was.
Right.
Yeah, he didn't know what a Lechusa was. Didn't know what a harpy was. And I was trying to come up with what it could have been, you know. And he said it was just the scariest thing that ever happened to him. And he actually quit, but then our boss kind of talked him into working again and put him somewhere else. But I can tell you, man, working security at night, you come up with some creepy stuff, dude. Like, Chief, you know, working downtown at the club, we were downstairs one night, and we just heard like this laughter with like pool balls.
Like a cackling?
Yeah.
Upstairs?
Yeah. There was like the pool ball clacking, and then we're like, what is that? Like somebody's up there laughing like a witch or something.
Yeah, it wasn't like closed off. There was like from the first floor, there was a balcony where you can hear, where it was always the whole thing was open.
Yeah.
If something was occurring on the second or third floor, you could hear it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, we heard like cackling going on and like pool balls and stuff shifting, you know, and everybody ran up there. Nothing.
Oh yeah, I'd come in the afternoon, dude, and I'd hear stuff all the time. There was
the infamous night that we pulled out the carpet,
yeah,
and there was probably 20 people in the same room, and when the door shut to the stairway, you just heard like literally a wailing, like a sound, like a sound a whale would make, like it was literally like eerie.
Wow. Nobody ever figured out what that was either.
No,
I think of all people that were there, Squid, D, Frazier. I think everybody was there.
Unless you can belt out a 16-second fart, I don't think it was. You know, it was like loud and like guttural and it sounded like a disgruntled spirit. That's for sure.
Well, you know, in all those previous episodes on the house and the hauntings and everything else, we've mentioned that downtown Austin is way older than what people think.
Oh yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff that's happened down there.
Stuff built on top of stuff.
1830s. I think the first buildings were down there.
Yeah.
And they're all historical markers now.
Official buildings for what was to become the Republic of Texas. But yeah, I mean,
a lot of people don't realize we had a serial killer that was killing people right after Jack the Ripper too.
Oh really?
Yeah, because what was his name? Henry. What was his name? O. Henry, the poet. Oh my gosh! I guess I'm so tired.
The guy they named the middle school after.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And he was it was like a writer,
right?
Anyways, he was living in Austin at that time, and they literally called him the Austin Ripper. And there's a lot of people that believe that there's a correlation there because when the murders stopped here, they started in England. Yeah. And so there's a lot of people that believe that, you know, but there's also some evidence that shows that they couldn't have been the same guy. It was just a coincidence because the guy that was killing the women here, they believe that he was African American, and then the guy that now they've figured out that they believe it was Aaron Kosminski,
right?
That did it because of the DNA testing they did over there in England, and he was a Polish kosher butcher, a Jewish butcher, kosher Polish whatever immigrant, but. anyways, they think that it was just a weird coincidence because and the way he would kill the people was like it was horrible. You can take like a ghost tour and they'll take you to some of those places where these women were murdered, and it was weird because he was killing women too.
Yeah,
but he was killing African American servant girls.
Yeah,
and they think that he was one too. That he was actually African American. They think that he was. It started with a woman that spurned him. But
right. He was interested in her. She spurned him.
And so he killed her, and then I guess he got a taste for it, and he kept doing it.
Yeah.
But I know that there's another...
So like an Austin Candyman kind of deal?
Well, if you just look it up, and if Anthony, you're on the computer, or Chief, one of you guys got the computer in front of you.
One of y'all would get to work.
Look up the Austin Ripper murders. I mean, it's and we have the Moonlight Towers now there. I'll get into it in more detail one day.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have to do
the Moonlight Towers
Austin,
are all over, and we'll take pictures of it.
I think we got cleared on investigating. I won't say where, but we'll say the club, right? We get cleared on that?
I'll have to talk to him.
Right.
But I know that there's one club in particular, like right behind it. Do you know where Fuel used to be?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you know that parking lot right there behind it? There's a little parking lot
there's
there.
an old club that's always been closed right there. It's always been like dilapidated.
Why? Yeah, because that is literally where one of the murders took place.
Oh wow,
that's interesting.
And it has been a hotbed of paranormal activity for years. Like there's been ghost hunters going in there.
Let's get clearance on that. Do we even need clearance
on
that? You
go ahead. I don't need to go around these ghosts. What is it with you and wanting to go get possessed?
I agree with
Chief's creep.
I agree with
Chief's like, you want to be possessed today? No, I'm good. I'm good.
You know what this is, right, Wolf? This is payback when you brought that one over to his place.
Yeah, we're going. You're getting in the car.
You will go. No, dude. You know what? I don't need to go around ghosts. I don't need to go around werewolves. I'm good. There's vampires. We're good. We're good.
Yeah,
we're good.
But that's really,
I got the ghost whisperer with me.
Here's what this one. Here's the one I was thinking about. We've discussed many times how Texas is just full of so many weird, odd stuff.
So weird.
The Mexican folklore, it's part of the weirdness.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the whole border belt. And that's high strangeness left and right. The only thing that comes to mind when you talk about downtown Austin, it makes me wonder how much Mexican folklore is tied to downtown Austin that we don't know about or we haven't heard much about.
Well, you got the other half of downtown Austin, the east side.
The east side, the east side of 6th Street is very old too, and it's very dilapidated. And
it used to be very Mexican, but
it was all like
we've got gentrification going on.
I had a weird incident there at the La India Bonita one time.
Okay.
I had like a flashback of something. I don't know what it was.
I had a mandala incident there because it used to be La India Bonita, and now it's like a barbecue place that I walked in and everybody's looking at me crazy. And I'm like, dude, 10 years ago, y'all couldn't even be employed on this side of town. What are you talking about?
So you had a Mandela effect, not a mandala.
Could I get a nice mandala tattoo under my boobies?
But people ask you that for tattoos for that
all the time.
They want a mandala.
They want mandalas everywhere.
Yeah. Well, this is Mandela effect, not mandala.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I know you like to call it that, but that's not what it is.
Oh yeah, potato.
Yeah. Thank you, Sal.
Yeah. Well, Chief just likes to mess with people and laugh. Very facetious young man.
Well, some of these weird anomalies that are all over the state, you gotta laugh.
I love Adamame.
You gotta laugh.
Some good stuff.
That's definitely some good stuff.
Let me tell you. So, anyways, that is just one day we could do a show about that, and I think that they even have the guy's name that they think that did it. So that's going to be pretty interesting. I know that there have been people who claim that that Ted Bundy's boyhood home was haunted. There's some people that did some work there.
Wow.
And so that's pretty interesting. That's pretty creepy. And I know that the guy that whoever it was that killed these women, that they're in that area, these different areas, people feel this really dangerously evil presence. They feel like right.
Well, the old adage that when you die a horrific death, that part of that essence of who you were, or it was so traumatic, stays. It's
blood
like
and emotions stain the environment.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like an echo that stays there. Yeah, all that emotional energy
in the loop.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe these evil people, they know that when they pass over, they're going to just go to hell. So they just try to stick around,
try to stay in the void.
Yeah, exactly.
Dig
Like
around
in
in
a
the
purgatorial type
Purgatory,
state.
yeah, I think
I don't know what to
purgatory
call
That
it.
reminds me of what is it? The Ghost, where he's like, "Just one drag, man. I just want one drag." He's like the subway ghost.
Yeah. Well, purgatory is the in between. You're not in heaven and
It's
you're
a
not in
limbo
hell.
state.
It's very limbo, and for many, thinking about purgatory is a lot more harrowing than either going to hell.
Not for me. I'll take limbo over hell. I can tell you that.
And what I'm alluding to is the uncertainty factor, the unknown.
Oh, the uncertainty.
That
You know how many
worse.
people are going to attack us now because we even mentioned that there could be a limbo? You either go to heaven or you go to hell. That's what's going to happen. So that's what we're going to get that now in the comments, and they're going to attack us.
Many people.
Thanks a lot, Sal.
Well, that's many people have the.
Come on down to the jamboree, bring us some change.
Many people espouse the absolutism of when you die, you either go to heaven or you go to hell.
Yeah, and I can tell you right now that hell is not just one absolute type of thing. There's different types. I mean,
there will be a hell uniquely for you.
Yes, that hell is not.
Like you can come back as a doormat, or
generalizations of hell. I mean, I do believe in the lake of fire. I do believe that, and I believe there's certain things and you're going to go through a lot more than just. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do believe that. I believe that these really, really evil people like Ted Bundy and Arthur Shawcross and all these horrible serial killers, John Wayne Gacy, they are going to suffer like nobody's business. I mean, they're going to pay for what they've done.
Yeah,
you know?
And I think about the people that you have these murderers, and then you have people who have killed people. When you think of the context of why they did it, some people have killed people in self-defense or some type of incident like that where there was a reason that drove them that way.
Don't try to justify your murderous impulses.
Then you got your John Wayne Gacy's, you got your Ted Bundys that just killed for the thrill of it, not knowing anything about their victim. They just did it. Now those people have a very special place that they're.
Man, he was horrible. I watched that show on the Netflix, but they never really got into like the
psyche, his whole psyche and everything.
Yeah, they didn't get into like the murders he committed and anything like that. They just kind of, it was the trial and all that.
Oh, okay.
Just show what a slimy, like two-faced
jerk
he was. How he could just, and it was so sickening to watch him sit there and like he was his own lawyer and he was so smart, And
that's what drove it.
And I heard that when they were getting ready to fry him, that he was like crying. It's like, yeah, okay. Well, there was no mercy for your victims, dude. So
we're also leaving
mercy
out
for you,
Ed Gein.
Yeah.
Well, Ed Gein was different because Ed Gein, he only, as far as anybody knows, he only killed 2 people, but he was a grave robber.
Well, they said he had all kinds of stuff in his house.
Yeah, because he robbed graves.
Right.
Yeah, and he was like
lamps with human skin,
horrible
nipple belt.
Yeah, it was horrible. But
there was some crazy people, man.
Crazy people, and I know that
if it wasn't for them, we'd be talking about something else right now.
What, like?
If it wasn't for the crazy people.
We'd be talking about, we're supposed to be talking about Mexican folklore, not these crazy serial killers. Let's talk about that again.
The serial killer thing, and it all goes back to what we're talking about, negative energies and stuff that spawn, all these entities, because, again, like murder and everything else, as we've known, with satanic rituals and stuff, release of powers to enable the practitioners to summon stuff.
That's how the blood magic did what it did to that family. How do you think that Cadejo got where it got?
Oh, yeah.
$1 million bet that there's some sort of blood. You have to say, if I was a betting man, I'd say there was probably something that was killed, blood magic,
or the guy originally maybe cut his own hand to pay in that blood so that this curse would be assured.
I don't think that just cutting your hand is going to do it.
Sounds
a curse that powerful. I think it was something was murdered.
That sounds very Edgar Allan Poe kind of. I like that.
But the guy, giving up his own blood, cutting himself open.
Mind is gone, and I write scribbles.
Some to that effect. I would guess it was something.
Me and Margaret used to ride the trolley.
Yeah, because
it was something obviously powerful.
Something very.
Lechuza with chanclas is terrifying to me right now.
You just said the F word.
I'm sorry.
So we bleep that out. We bleep it out, but you know what? He said the F word. Just
I bleeped it already.
Kids at home, stop listening when Chief is on because don't tell them what kind of horrible things.
We're gonna have to do the Chief hour after 9 o'clock.
It's horrible. It's after midnight.
So
and we let it all hang out.
And there's a lot more Mexican, Hispanic, Latino folklore in Texas that you want to talk about? Because I know we were looking up some stuff earlier on, and Chief brought up a really good one that I read up on. Is called the Texas's own version of the Headless Horseman, El Muerto.
Yeah, wasn't he a conquistador? Is that what you're talking about?
No, actually, this
there's one
guy
on Devil's Backbone.
We're not talking
right.
about
Well, this one is the bandit. This was a bandit that
because there's one in the hill country.
Cattle rustler.
Yeah, he was a cattle rustler.
Wow. So then there's another one, because there was one out in the hill country.
See, I've heard of that one also.
It may be one and the same, because it was spotted all over the southern region of Texas, along the border belt all the way up.
San Antonio, all the way down.
So he might have been like a Comanchero or a...
Well, he was...
the original story was...
A bandito.
He was a bandito cattle rustler.
He was a famous cattle rustler, only known by Vidal.
Yeah, that's all I knew him.
So was he like the kind of like stereotypical Mexican? They had the bandoleros around his...
I would
Probably
imagine.
so.
And he had a plethora of piñatas.
And a beard, yeah. Plethora. I'm still here, El Guapo. Well, it's said that he stole some prize Mustangs from Creed Taylor. And Creed
famous
Taylor,
Texas Ranger.
Famous Texas Ranger. Fought in the Alamo.
And so did Bigfoot Wallace. And Bigfoot Wallace.
Battle of Gonzalez.
So what ended up happening to the guy? He got his head cut off?
Well,
or he got hung and his head come off. That happened too.
Yeah, he got hung, and
the story goes, after he stole those prize Mustangs.
Chief was about to tell me this.
Well, no, I'm just making sure.
We're on the same page.
You
just brutally
interrupted this man.
We're on the same page.
Look what you did. Now he's crying, dude. Look at him.
The quick rundown is
I'm going to need a minute.
He was a bandit, cattle rustler. He was doing his dirt for a long time, and then finally he messed up by stealing prize Mustangs from Creed Taylor, a famous Texas Ranger. Bigfoot Wallace was in on it too, because they were friends and so on and so forth.
Both Texas Rangers.
Right. And they started going after him. Well, another local rancher around the area, basically west of San Antonio, when it was all the undisputed territory between Mexico and the Republic of Texas.
No man's land.
No man's land. Well, there's another rancher, his last name was Flores, that he joined in with them. So all three went after him. They were seasoned trackers. These guys were excellent woodsmen, you name it. They tracked him down. They came in at night, grabbed him, and slaughtered him and his henchmen. And in order to send a message that, cattle rustling or horse thievery wasn't tolerated, what they took him as, they would do horrific things to these banditos. Well, this guy, they did the thing. They cut off his head, and everything else. And then they mounted him on a wild Mustang, tied his corpse to the saddle, and then took his head and put it on a piece of latigo, i.e. a piece of leather, strapped it to the head of the saddle, and then turned that horse loose with that head.
Hung it from the horn.
And it was just sitting there flapping around. The head's flapping around as that Mustang was out running. And of course the torso, the headless torso, sitting up in the saddle, and they propped it up that way so that all who ran across this Mustang, it was the message. You cattle thief, or you do cattle thievery or horse thievery, this is what happens.
You're gonna lose your head.
Mm-hmm. Eventually, they caught the horse like a year or two later, and he still had that dried body and everything. The corpse
riddled with bullets and arrows,
because people would see it and they'd be afraid. No head, and so it was riddled with bullets. And where was it? Ended up around Alice, Texas, right?
Between Alice and Ben Bolt, Palito Blanco, they say there's an unmarked grave. He's got an unmarked grave out there.
Yeah, because that's where they finally caught the horse. And they pulled all that off of them. And they knew, they were trying to figure it out. And then that's when Creed Taylor and, he got up there and said, yeah, me and Bigfoot Wallace and Flores over there.
That's what we done.
We did it to them to curb the, rustling that was going on. So
Flores is actually my grandmother's maiden name. And Flores is actually your last name.
That's my last name.
Yeah.
Well, another thing too is that this is 1846. This is pre barbed wire. It's probably 25, 30 years before barbed wire, open range. You got a lot of your ranchers really relied on your brandings. And your rustling was rampant, on top of, being raided by Comanches or Mexican American War around that time also.
Yeah. So all that happened. And so once they caught the horse around Ben Bolt and all that area, that's when they took it off of him and turned it loose. And then they took the body, what was left of it, in the head, and they buried it in an unmarked grave. So then after that, the sightings started happening.
That's when it started from Uvalde all the way up to, there's a triangle of sightings, a hotbed of sightings of the Headless Horseman between Corpus Christi, San Patricio, and Ben Bolt, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, San Diego also.
All that area.
Which is all the same area.
And the last one was that we know of was reported around 1969?
69,
67, somewhere around there, yeah. They reported a sighting of a headless, headless rider on a gray or a dark horse riding. And it just, one of the ones I believe that the one that was reported in 1917, it was a couple.
It was camping.
They were camping, by their wagon.
Covered wagon.
And they, it scared the bejesus out of them because they spotted this thing.
So it rode by screaming, "That's mine, all mine, all mine."
And I was like, wow, that's nuts. But, that's many of the weirdness that goes on, around here. It's amazing. I wish there was a comprehensive website for all things paranormal in Texas, because we have enough stuff that it'll fill up volumes and volumes of pages, And I know all the other states have their own as well, but compared to Texas, I think that's a to beat out Texas in all the levels of weirdness and all the different kinds of weirdness we have in the state. I think that'd be a hard.
Yeah, I think it'd be real hard.
Well, that area near the Alamo is completely haunted.
Oh,
Mexico.
I know that the bookstore there, that I think it was like a Barnes and Noble, I think, or whatever. I think it's Barnes and Noble, and it's been something else too. I think. But I've been in there, and they were telling me that they told me and a couple of my friends that books would come off the shelves and stuff, and it's right there where the southern end of the
battlefield.
Where they were defending that part of the wall.
Yeah.
And it got hit pretty hard. The Mexicans overran them,
Wow.
and bayoneted a lot of people. And so I know that area was like, there was a lot of death there. I know one time we were at the mall, and Anthony, you remember this, when we went to see that exhibit, that museum that was underground at the River Center Mall. And it was pretty cool. It was like this really, really cool, like wax figures. It was temporary.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I got like ahead of everybody, and I was walking along, and I turn around and I'm like, hey, look, there's all this. And I'm in this really dark area where they were showing like the Texans laying there dying, or whatever. And it creeped me out because I'm sitting there going like, this is actually literally where they died.
Where it happened.
I am walking literally upon where these people died.
And they spilled their last bit of blood.
There's the Menger Hotel that's on
the Menger,
that's haunted, and it's right on the site.
And the Emily Morgan, I believe. Was it Emily Morgan? There's the Emily Morgan Hotel is very haunted. And so anyways, I'm walking through there, and I got a really creepy feeling just all of a sudden going like, everybody was way back behind me, and I'm like winding around. I've just kind of gotten off, on my own, and I started to feel kind of creeped out. I don't know. It's just.
I wonder, and I don't mean to get off topic, but I wonder if that correlates with the neighboring rancher being Flores, and that area is near Floresville.
Well, yeah, that's the whole area. Well, he was a big time rancher around there, right. So Floresville. Flores was also one of the generals that helped out
Zapata.
Sam Houston. Sam Houston and all them. He was part of the whole Tejano.
Yeah,
along with Juan
Seguin and all them. You can actually trace a lot of the Flores to a guy named Fuente Flores who came over, because I remember when we were doing a genealogy of my great grandmother, and she's full-blooded Comanche, but she married a Flores. And so there was like this whole genealogy we did, and that most of the Floreses that came over, they came over, they were conquistadors, and there was only like a small handful of them. Right. And then they spread out from there. So most of the Floreses going way back are actually related. So we were probably related somewhere.
Way back in the back.
Unfortunately,
that weird correlation with the date there. That's kind of weird.
Well, you got to take into consideration.
That my grandmother died on your birthday.
Yeah,
you got to take
very
into consideration.
Odd.
Yeah.
Well, here recently, my friend just passed. John Kelly, God rest his soul. He was a very dear friend of mine. I actually worked with him for a long time, and he died just recently on Cinco de Mayo, on my brother's birthday.
Oh wow!
And when his brother told me that, I was like, wow. And then of course my grandmother died on your birthday, and that's weird because like his birthday is December 19th.
Oh, that's cool. It's the day before mine.
Yeah, it's the day before yours, and then of course my grandmother died on your birthday. So it's very weird,
A lot of these odd and strange coincidences.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting.
Back to the border belt. There was also stories about time slips on the Houma Road, and like these black clouds on the road. And once you drive into it, you're like people drive into it at night and all of a sudden they're somewhere in the day, you know?
Well, what is that dark matter? I mean, because like Simon was talking about it, like this dark matter that actually will chase people and people will go into it and then
like
they'll...
a cloud.
Yeah, it's like a cloud,
massive.
like a massive cloud. Yeah.
Like the one we had at the house was probably like a person. But people are reporting like a huge cloud going across the street, you know, like a smoke cloud, but massive, and not necessarily traveling like smoke, you know, just kind of floating nonchalantly, you know, and that you drive through it and there's a time slip.
Well, all I can say when it comes to that and those anomalous forces out there and seeing these black clouds, there's something that resembles it's sort of orbish, for lack of better words,
right.
And it's just set out there floating. You know, that to me represents, and this is just my speculation, it represents an energy of sorts, or it could be a host of other things. It could be a demonic entity.
It could be a vehicle wolf.
It could be a lot of things. But
you know, I got a lot of ghost vehicle stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have like a whole bunch of stories about I'm going to do a show on it.
Like Christine kind of deal?
No. Like ghost vehicles, like people see phantom vehicles.
Oh, I got
there was
you,
a guy in Germany that was stationed in Germany.
Well, we're going to have to make an episode of that.
Yeah, and I got one, my friend Billy, when we were kids, him and another kid that lived in the subdivision by us, that there was a train that used to come through there all the time, and so a lot of weird stuff. Yeah, I got tons of stories, folks. I got enough stories that'll last us forever. I can tell you right now.
I know my grandparents' property down in Ben Bolt, or Green Acres, which is between Ben Bolt and Alice, Texas. We'd always hear somebody pull up, and then look outside. There's nothing.
Yeah,
like you hear an engine pull up,
phantom vehicles,
idle a little bit, you know, and then even shut off, or a car door shut. Look outside, nobody's here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, I've got a strange story like that in my family. But to finish my thought, when you see those black, dark orbs, I think it's just some energy that's going to disrupt whatever we got going on in this timeline, whether it be demonic or whether it be a space-time continuum anomaly of sorts. You know, ley line associated or not.
Ley line's a very real thing too.
I'm not too sure, but it is an energy, and I believe it's strong enough to disrupt whatever you got going on if you drive into it, for lack of better words.
Well, or some kind of barrier there that you break or you pass over.
The fabric, squeeze through the fabric because it's so thin.
So what are these other things you have, Chief, for us about these other...
if you can Google Lahoma, there's tons of activity on Lahoma Road. You got the...
Okay, I don't need to Google anything. Do you have any stories for us? Because if not, then you need to just shut that. I'm just kidding.
Pat, you need to get your two friends and pick up all these peanuts off the floor and get out of here, okay?
We're not going to talk about that. It's not a blessing.
No, I think that was all I had.
For this episode, anyways.
We had some...
Because I know at one point we need to cover the Duende.
I was expecting you to go... What are you, Ichabod Crane or something here?
Well, you said the Headless Horseman. I know that there's a legend. And I was talking about the Hoxie Bridge out near Taylor, and then somebody was like, well, you know about the Headless Horseman out there. And I'm like, I didn't know there was a Headless Horseman. I knew there was a Phantom Bull. And of course, now I'll tell you this. This will be the last story, and we'll leave it with this. This is an urban legend, I think, but it is a story of Hoxie. Now, if anybody's ever heard this story, I've heard it attached to several different places. But the story goes, I was told this when I was a kid, out near Hoxie Bridge near Taylor, that if you go out there, that there is a man that was hung upside down.
Right.
And his head was cut off. You know about that?
No, but I want to hear about it.
Okay. There was a man and a woman that ran out of gas.
Sounds kind of like the Jake's Bridge story.
Well, there's a lot of, it's associated with a lot of bridges, but there are people that claim that they see it. I mean, I don't know if it's some sort of tulpa, maybe, that people... They hear something, so they believe it, so then they make it happen, you know. But there was there's this couple that went out there and they ran out of gas, and nobody can ever tell you who the couple is. It's like, oh, a friend of a friend of a friend's, sisters, cousins, housekeeper. But anyways, they ran out of gas.
We'll say the Smiths.
The Smiths, yeah. And so the boyfriend went to go get gas, and then... So the girl gets scared. She lays down in the floorboard and waits for him to come back. She gets scared because she starts hearing like a tapping on the roof of the vehicle.
Right.
And it just keeps going and going and going. And so she gets scared and she can't figure out what it is. So then she gets down into the floorboard of the vehicle or whatever, and this tapping keeps happening. So then the next day she wakes up and she goes and looks, and there is her boyfriend hung upside down, and it's his knuckles or whatever that are either it's him scratching it or it's tapping.
From swaying in the tree.
From swaying in the tree, and there's like he's been decapitated.
I was gonna say, please don't say the hook hand, bro.
No, the hook hands are there. It's not that bad, but that's a story that I heard.
That's a babysitter story
out in Hoxie, Hoxie Bridge, and then of course the black cats out there are very real, and then of course I hear the story of the hairy hand. Do you know the story of the hairy hand?
I've only heard mention, never heard the real story, the details.
The story was that there were some guys. This is always somewhere in the middle of Mexico. Nobody knows where exactly, but it's an urban legend of Mexican folklore, and so there was a bunch of guys that were in a bar, in a cantina, and they were playing cards, and the guy said, "Hey, we're closed. It's time to go. You need to go home." And they're like, shut up, and cállate la boca, whatever.
Bring me more tequila, whatever.
We don't need no stinking badges.
Like tequila, whatever. So the dude's like, okay, fine, and then next thing you know, the shopkeeper who's wanting to go to sleep, he sees that these people there's like an empty chair there with like a cocha on it, a blanket, right? And he sees this manos, it's a hand, at manos aquí, right here, like just on the table. And he notices like these borrachos, these drunkards, they're just playing cards. And then you realize that hand is playing with them, and it's a hairy hand. It's like a pair of hairy hands.
Severed hand? Like severed hands?
A pair of hairy hands that are playing cards with him.
Disembodied.
And of course they freak out when he points it out to them, and then they all leave immediately, and then he goes home and goes to sleep. Yeah, that's the story. But
it was a pair of disembodied hands playing cards with them. They didn't notice.
They were just dealing to it. They were so drunk.
I want to know what the hairy hand's hand was. Did they have a good hand or not?
Yeah, exactly. Was it the dead man's hand?
Yeah, aces and eights.
Because they said, because it was Wild Bill, right? That it was shot and killed in Black.
Cowboy Billy,
in
right?
Deadwood.
In Deadwood. Yeah, in the Black Hills of South Dakota.
Wild Bill Hickok died.
Wild Bill Hickok was shot and killed, and then ever since then it was called the dead man's hand.
He was holding aces and eights.
Aces and eights.
And that's
cool that you know that. Nobody ever knows that. When I tell people that, and I was at the casino, me and Anthony were up in Choctaw playing at the casino, close to where your friend up there, their Native
he
American
lives.
friend
Yeah, my buddy lives up there. He's from the Choctaw Nation. He lives close to Ardmore.
Chicken.
Oh yeah, he's got a chicken place out there in Madill, Oklahoma.
He said it was really good fried chicken.
Oh man!
Once I get done losing this weight, then I'll go up there and eat some of that good fried chicken, but not until then. But we're at the Choctaw, and I said something about it to this guy. I said, "Oh, it's a dead man's hand," whenever we threw our cards down. And he was like, "Huh?" And I'm like, "Yeah, never mind, dude. I'm not going to get into it." People don't know history. They don't know history.
Awesome. So anyways, this has been, quite an interesting show here. And I know we're going to have Chief back again.
Oh, man, again? Dude.
He's always out there,
Hey, forget that guy, homie.
He's always out there doing his research.
Creeping around.
Yeah. He likes
Chief the creep.
We never got to get to the bat story, though.
I know. We can save that one for the next one, because I know we're gonna have plenty more. Chief does his own investigation, so
let me write that down so I'll remember next time with the millions of other stories that I got to tell.
Hey, but I tell you what, this
Wolf
is fun.
And Sal are diligently working on your stories, guys. Trust me.
Yep. Yeah. You send us your stories and we will butcher the heck. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. We'll tell them the best we can, and like I said, I prefer if you got a really good story and you think you can speak, come on the show.
Yeah, let us know.
Talk with us here at the round table, and we'll talk it out. If not, then we can tell your story, but we're not responsible if we don't tell your story correctly. We might even do it on purpose to be mean.
No.
I'm just kidding. Sal's over there. No.
No. We're going to get your story out, unless you want to tell it. Why not? We're okay with that.
Why not?
We want you, because we want to ask you questions and see, and maybe help you remember more details, whatever the case may be, because I know the audience, all you folks out there, like to hear these strange things, because number one, there's many of you out there that have had your own weird and abnormal experiences that you may think you're all alone, but I'm willing to bet that you're not. There's probably others that have experienced something very similar.
Oh, dude, I was going through the emails the other day, and I came across one or two that were like, whoa. Kind of took me back a minute. I was like, whoa, that's pretty creepy. Because I've heard hundreds of stories, but then every now and then you'll come across one and you'll just be like, what is that? Like, it's like it really throws you off. It's like it creeps you out, man.
Right. It's strange. And just to finally close this out, we got an email from a listener in Japan. And this listener, I'm convinced from what I read that this English is their second language. And of course, Japanese folklore and strange goings on and
the
hauntings,
oni.
All that stuff. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with it, but I'm going to study up on it because
the kappas and the oni.
The Grudge.
Yeah.
The Grudge.
Well, I don't know about all
We're talking about some real mythological stuff, fool.
But
you're talking about fake movie stuff.
I want to say they got it off of.
The reality is, though, I'm going to keep trying to correspond with that individual a little bit more just to see if I can get a story from them. Right now, I think they're, English is the second language, so it's going to be a big of a barrier, but I'm going to keep trying.
Well, we need to do some research upon that then. Because
we don't have a field investigator in Japan yet?
No, not yet. We're working on it. We're going to get a sumo wrestler.
How are we
going to
get one in Japan? The one here.
I want a sumo wrestler to do it. Find one for me. You know what, though, guys? I wanted to say something. People said, you guys joke around a lot, and some people really like it. Can I say something? I'm going to say this, and this is the truth. I say it from the bottom of my heart. I don't give a crap what you people think. I'm just kidding. No, seriously. No, I want to say something. What the joking for me, it helps me because
takes the edge off.
Yes, because some of this stuff can be kind of intense, and to a lot of the listeners, I've had a lot of female listeners in particular respond to me and tell me I like that you joke around a little bit and you break it up with that because it is some of this stuff scary.
Yeah, and especially to the people
who scary.
Especially to the people who have had similar experience about what in regards to the story that you're telling or the topic we're covering. Those people it's really hitting home with them. So a little joking here and there just helps take the edge off because I'm totally for that.
Cause people to have panic attacks, whatever. Because I've had people tell me. Actually, one of my cousins, she was like, "I like your show." She's like, "You and Sal do a good job, but it scares me." So I'm just like, hey, I don't want anybody to be afraid. I know that some of this stuff is scary. Some of it can be intense. And so, just remember we're two normal guys. I don't know about you, but me and this guy over here, we're normal. We're normal, ordinary people. And so we're just here talking and you're listening to the conversation and I'm telling the stories. They're telling the stories and we hope you enjoy it. You remember Das Wolfman 88? DasWolfman88@gmail.com. Do you remember that email? Send me your story. Wolf and Sal
at gmail.com. That's the other email. Send us your stories. We want to hear them. And again, if you want to tell your story, let us know.
Yeah.
Send us an email. And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Shout out to all the listeners. If you got any questions for me, hit me up on the thread on the Paranormal YouTube.
You don't have an email for them? You don't want to give them your email?
No, negative.
Oh, wow. No.
He
really doesn't want to hear from you, folks.
I will. No, I'm gonna have them saturate y'all's emails with stuff for me.
Yeah.
There you go. Anyways, just keep sending me your stories. Like I said, I'm a little bit backed up because and also my voice went out for like a week or two. It's weird. And so everybody in the house kind of got laryngitis. It was weird. And so, yeah, just keep sending us your stories and I'll get to them as quick as I can and we'll talk about it and we will go over, what we can do if you want to come on the show or if you just want to, give us your stories and we'll tell them
please
for you.
Write it all out.
Yeah.
And send it to us so we can share it here on the show.
Absolutely.
With that being said, thanks for being with us, everybody. Chief, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And just like Wolf always says, good night, good evening, wherever you are, whatever it is.
Sayonara.
And all I say is, y'all have a good one.